Hello, welcome to the next topic that we will be discussing, the theory of production and costs. But before that, we have a mid-term assignment here that you have to look at it and be able to attempt it as part of the assessments that I will be doing for this particular module. So once you attempt that, it will be considered as part of the evaluation criteria that we are going to use as an institution. So we now move to the topic on theory of production and costs. And here we measure on understanding what we call the factors of production. And we say that they are economic resources which are needed in order to be able to help in the production of goods and services. So when we combine these resources, now we call them factors of production. And we have four main factors of production, which is land, labor, capital, and enterprise. We classify land and labor as primary factors of production, or what we can also say that they are the main factors of production. So we can now look at the aspect of land. The definition of land is generally what we call the free gifts of nature. We look at farmlands. Farmlands are lands that we can be able to do farming and cultivation. We have lands that have mineral wells. We have fishing grounds around the lakes. That's an example. We have forests. We have rivers. All those are lands that we can be able to utilize. Yeah, so what else that we need to understand is land is fixed in supply, and with land there are so many things that individuals, citizens can be able to do to be able now to multiply whatever they have. And as we study the factors of production, we also look at the rewards. So the reward for land is what we call rent and rates. Yeah, and that's why you hear people that own pieces of land are required to pay rates to the national government or to county governments. When you put up buildings in this land, you also enjoy what we call rent. So as you understand the factors of production, also it is important to understand the rewards for these factors of production. Then we have capital. We call it just the stock of wealth. We can have it in form of physical assets, or what we can also call fixed assets. For example, buildings or fixed capital, buildings, roads, machinery. The roads is about infrastructure. It is very important in terms of ensuring production takes place. We need to transport our goods and services to different areas, and it is important to ensure in terms of infrastructure that we push the government to be able to set up the best that we could have. And then we have what we call the fixed ones, the fixed capital. I've just talked about that. Then we have the working capital or the circulating capital, which consists of the stocks of raw materials and semi-manufactured goods. Yeah, so it is important to understand the definitions even as we get into more details. Then we have labor. Labor is simply what we call the human resources, we can also call them the manpower resources that are needed in order to assist in production. And that's why it is important as we begin businesses, we also have to have human resources and labor that we can be able to use. Of course, labor is very mobile. We are going to look at the mobility. That's why you hear Kenya is exporting a lot of labor in terms of doctors, because of high levels of unemployment around. People are moving to other countries because what they have is a skill. They can be able to practice it in another place. When it comes to the supply of labor, of course, there are determinants, or there is what determines if labor is going to be available. The other one of the determinants of the availability of labor is the population size. Of course, you know, the higher the population, the more we can be able to have labor available to the economy. And then we have the age structure. Age structure is simply what is the composition of the ages in terms of what number of people are in a certain category in terms of age. So we have the young age group, which is below 18. Of course, you know, as per law, those are defined as minors. So we may not necessarily be able to count them as labor because they are deemed to be people that are schooling, for example. Yeah, so people below this age are not in the labor supply. That is what I've just said. So the age that we are looking at, of course, is 20 something to 40 something or 50. All those people would be deemed to be available for offering their labor. The working population, that's another determinant of the supply of labor. Not everybody in the working age group will be in the labor force. Yeah, so even the age group that I've mentioned of 20 to 45 to 50, not all of those people are in the working age group. And we are saying that because there can be other contributing factors that are hindering them from being called a working population. For example, this kind of population, we may have people that are sick, so it means they are not available for opportunities. The aged, the disabled, we have some that may not be available. Others are still able to work, but we have those that are grounded, bedridden, and then we also have housewives, somebody who has committed themselves to be offering or to be in the house, maybe to take care of their kids fully. We may not classify them into the working population because they are not readily available. They have committed themselves to house chores and duties. The other one is the education system. If the children are kept in school longer, then this will affect the size of or the labor size. So what kind of an education system have we adopted? If you look at courses around medicine, law, we tend to keep those kind of students and graduates for very long in schools. Yet we are complaining of not having enough of maybe doctors to be able to offer a certain service. So the education system is very important. Kenya as a country is now adopting what we call the competency-based curriculum. Of course, that kind of a curriculum is meant to be able to ensure that learners not only concentrate on the theoretical aspect, but also concentrate on doing practical activities that are going to assist them to be able to succeed. Then we have the length of the working week. This determines the labor supply in terms of man hours. Hence, the fewer the holidays there are, the higher there will be the labor supply. So, of course, you know, during holidays like Madaraka Day, Jamhuri Day, and many other holidays that different countries have, those are Kenyan holidays that I've just mentioned. Those are not working days. So most companies, you realize, actually they are closed. So if the working week is having, for example, 2 holidays, it means those 2 holidays we may not have supply of labor in that particular time. Then we have the remuneration. The preceding factors affect the supply of labor in totality. Remuneration affects the supply of labor in a particular industry. So how much in terms of remuneration or wages and salaries are the industries able and be willing to pay? The reason why individuals are also choosy in terms of the jobs that they want to do is they are looking at the aspect of labor, and also in terms of remuneration, some are going to feel that that is a minimal amount, or it may not be able to meet their needs, so they will not support, or they will not take up those jobs. And then finally is the extent to barriers to entry into a particular occupation. If there are strong barriers to the particular occupation of labor, for example, you are required to have special talents. For example, when we go to the police recruitment, you are expected, number one, to be physically fit. Number two, you need to have a certain specific height. Number three, you need to be able to run several kilometers and get into a good position. So those are barriers that many people are not able to meet. So if we are looking for a 5.4 feet individual for the police service, and you are 5 or you are 4 point something, that is a barrier to entry to that particular occupation, and you are not going to qualify. Even though you may meet other criteria, you still may not be able to qualify for that position. Now, the efficiency of labor refers to the ability to change a greater output in a shorter time without any falling off in the quality of work. So what determines whether a labor is efficient? That's a good question that we are asking ourselves in this particular discussion. So number one is the climate. It can be important influence on willingness to work, for extremes of temperatures or high humidity are not conducive to concentration even on congenial tasks. Yeah, so the kind of climate in terms of when we have extreme temperatures, for those that are working in maybe construction sites where you have to put up with the scorching sun, which is a bit difficult. So you will not be efficient. You will always be looking for opportunities to hide yourself from the scorching sun. And then we have the education and training. Education and training produce skills and therefore efficient labor. Yeah, so what kind of education do we have as individuals will determine our levels of efficiency. We have the general education, we have the technical education, we have the training within an industry. So you need all these kinds of education. For you to be called a professional or an expert in a particular area, you must also have the training within the industry to understand the dynamics of that industry, and that will assist you to be able to make an impact when you are given an opportunity to serve. And then we have the working conditions. Everybody is looking for a safe and hygienic working condition. So if those are not available, then it's an opportunity for people to reject those kind of jobs. So we will lack efficiency because people are also looking at the aspects in relation to working conditions. Safety, your safety is also important. Your protective clothing is important. You need to have it. The other one is the health of the worker. The efficiency of the worker is closely related to his state of health. Yeah, so you may not be efficient and you have issues around health that disturb you, and it may not be you in person. It can also be a family member, and that will affect your ability to be efficient. So we have to pray and hope that for us to be more efficient, that we do not develop any health issues. Remember, some of these health issues are to a point put you away from the workplace because maybe you are undergoing treatment and so on and so forth. And finally is the peace of mind. It is important as we go to the workplace, or it is important for individuals to be efficient. We also have very important, we need peace of mind. So when things are disturbing us, family issues, sicknesses, unemployment, old age, they are going to hinder the efficiency of individuals. And the other one is the efficiency of the factors. The productivity of labor will be increased if the quality of the factors is high. The more fertile the land, the greater will be the output. So we have just talked about the factors of production. We can have land, very good, but now we get to the aspect of asking ourselves, is it fertile? Because if it is not fertile, it is not going to enable you to be productive. Then we have the motivating factors. These are factors which boost the morale of workers and hence increase their efficiency. Remember, it is not all about waking up and going to work. Your efficiency is also determined by what are you getting from the institution in terms of subsidized housing, free medical benefits, paid sick leaves, allowing workers to buy shares in the company, and incorporating workers' representatives in the decision making of the firm. So that one is very, very important. And finally is the extent of specialization and division of labor. The greater the amount of specialization, the greater will be the output per man, and division of labor increases the efficiency of labor. Remember, no one can be able to do everything alone. That's why we introduce the aspect of division of labor, so that we can share responsibilities and we can be able to have people enjoy work, limited work. So that is very, very important. Then factor mobility, we have what we call the mobility of factors of production. We have movement from one employment to another is called occupational mobility, and movement from one place to another is called geographical mobility. So when we look at the factors of production, we are looking them at the concept of it being occupationally mobile or geographically mobile. That's very important to be able to understand. Then mobility of land, we say that land is geographically mobile. So we cannot be able to move a piece of land from one point to another. But what is going to happen, we can say that land is occupationally mobile, in that we can put it into different uses, e.g. farming, grazing, building, and then it becomes mobile. And then we have those land, or that land that is in the arid areas. It is limited in use, so that one we cannot make it occupationally mobile. Yeah. So the other one is the mobility of capital. Some forms of capital are immobile. For example, when we have heavy machinery, and railway networks that have been set, then we say those ones are geographically immobile, because we cannot be uprooting them from one point to another by forcing them to be mobile. So I invite you, as you read on the notes that will accompany these presentations, to also have now take time to read what is explained here. What I'm just giving is a summary of the details and the notes. The other one is the mobility of labor. Like I said, when we were looking at labor previously, I said labor is geographically mobile, and people can be able to move from one occupation to another on a higher level. That is what we call vertical occupational mobility. And where we have situations where people are able to move from one occupation to another at the same level, we say that kind of movement is horizontal occupational mobility. So it is important to be able to understand that in the mobility aspect, and this is a very examinable area that we need to understand. And barriers to geographical mobility of labor. what are some of the things that are going to prevent people from the ability to be able to move from one job to another, from one location to another. We have number one, the cost of movement. If you have been involved in movement from one place to another, you know it is not something very easy. It comes with its own cost. So people may calculate that cost and say, I am not taking that job because it requires me to invest a lot of money. There are people that have received opportunities to travel abroad and they have not taken the offer because of the cost of visas, the cost of passports, the cost of preparation is quite huge and they are not able to meet. So it means they are not going to be mobile or readily available for the job. The other one is the state of housing. You know, of course, in the rural areas, housing is very affordable compared to urban areas. So somebody who has a job in the rural area and they have gotten another opportunity to go to the urban area, of course, one of the main barrier now that will prevent them maybe from taking the job is the shortage of housing. And also, even with the shortage, it is quite expensive to be able to move to a new house that will cost you $100, $200, $300 and above, whereas you are just paying some few amounts of money and you are comfortable in the rural areas. The other one is the education of children. So somebody would get an opportunity to move, but they are looking at the stage where their children are in terms of education and they are unwilling to sacrifice that because they would feel that that movement will affect them in person, and therefore they don't take the decision to be able to move to another job or location. The other one is social and family ties. There are those that are unable to move because of the relationship with the family. Maybe you have an elderly grandparent, parent that you are taking care of. So if an opportunity arises, you would feel that it is going to disorient you because it will move you from the responsibilities of family ties and social relationships that you have with friends and relatives. The other one is geographical and economic factors. Some areas are known to be hostile areas. They are too hot or too cold. Consequently, people are reluctant to go to work in such places. Yeah, you may be moving to a place that the cost of living is high, and that's why it is important to find out, even as you move, what kind of area are you moving into so that you can be able to prepare yourself. Find out the cost of living. If it is very high, then you have to prepare yourself and ask yourself whether you are able to do it or is going to happen. The other one is mobility of entrepreneur, the most mobile. This is one of the most mobile factors of production, and it is because the basic functions of the entrepreneur are common to all industries. So entrepreneurship is very mobile. If a business is not doing well in town A, you can plan to transfer it in town B, and it is still may be able to pick up and respond better. So that brings us to the end of a very interesting topic. I think the major concentration in this topic is the factors of production, and we expound them into looking at various factors that will determine whether labor is geographically mobile. So take time to internalize that discussion, and I'm sure it is going to be of benefit to you.